Welcome to the session. Topic of this session is trade policy. The external trade in the form of import and export are important. The import basically allows us to make available the commodity which are not available in the country, which are not produced in the country, and country needs that commodity for the consumption purpose, for the production purpose. Through the import activity we can make available. The export activity is very important to sell the commodity which are produced in the country, and through the export basically we find the different market in the world and we can sell the commodity in international market, and that facilitate earning of the foreign exchange. That will help in the the importing of the commodity also. So that's why the import and export are very important, and for the growth of the economy as a whole also, and to make the commodity to the consumer and to sell the commodity in the international market. And in the initial year of the after independence, there was a food grain shortage. So in case of agriculture we followed a restrictive trade policy, and basically there was a not open, we were not open to export our the agriculture commodity because there was a sort of the supply. But after the third 5-year plan, actually the country started promotion of the export activities to earn the foreign exchange, to contribute in the the national development. And in this session basically we are going to discuss about the different trade policies adopted for regulation of the foreign trade, to promote the export activities. And basically we will be discussing all the trade policies which are related to agriculture sector and after independence. The marketing of the agriculture commodity across the nation's border usually termed as the external trade. So when we do the marketing of our agriculture commodity across the our country's border, that is called basically external trade. And basically external trade is done in the form of the export and import. And export basically provide the market support for commodities which are available in the surplus quantity in the country, and it also help in generating the foreign earning, which increase the country's capacity to import the other goods. And by import basically we reduce the foreign exchange reserves, and basically it augment the domestic availability of the goods in the country. And the producers gain by the export because they are getting the money from the outside country, and lose by import because it increase the supply in the country. So there's a reduction in the prices. And a number of activities were taken to develop the external sectors. And basically in the 1950s to 1970s there was no export incentives in the agriculture sector because there was a shortage of the food grains and agriculture commodities. So there was several restriction on the export of agriculture commodities. And the third 5-year plans, during the 1961 to 66, there was a radical departure from the earlier policy, and basically a number of measures were taken to promote the export activity in the country. And like fiscal incentives were provided, the import entitlement schemes were started, then the direct financial incentives and market incentives were provided to the producers and to the exporters. And in the fourth 5-year plan, the quality control and grading under AGMARK were started, because for the export of the commodity we need to have the quality produce. So that's why the focus was shifted towards the quality control, and the grading of the produce were started, and AGMARK were created under the DMI. The establishment of different organizations like Export Promotion Council, the commodity boards, the trade development authorities were set up, and like commodity boards, we have tea board, coffee board, rubber board. So they are highly commercial crops. So for promotion of export or the production activities, we have started the commodity boards. And in 1977, a task force on agriculture export headed by G.V.K. Rao was set up, and basically this task force highlighted the need to have long-term policies and avoid frequent change in the export policy. So basically this G.V.K. Rao task force suggested that we should develop the long-term policy, long-term plan for promotion of the agriculture export. Then a committee and another committee under the chairmanship of P. Alexander in 1977, that committee was set up, and basically this committee recommended for stability of the export policies and the transparency in the making the policies. And then this committee also suggested in replacement of the licensing system or quota system by the tariff system, and we can regulate the, basically this committee suggested to regulate the export import activity by putting the import export duties, and so instead of quota restriction. And then this committee also suggested the rationalization of the export incentives, and then elimination of the multiplicity of the incentives. Different types of incentive were provided. So we should rationalize, and that was the recommendation. And then this also suggested strengthening the institutional infrastructure for export promotion in the country. Then Abid Hussain Committee in 1984 was constituted, and that again suggested for rationalization and improvement in the policies. And mid 90s to early 90s, the country started the liberalization of the external sectors. Actually, we have started opening up our economy, and the main objective of the external sector policy was to ensure the stability in domestic prices of the agricultural commodity. And the government basically actively regulated agricultural exports through a variety of the measures like export taxes, the export ceiling, and canalization and export provisions. And in July 1991, India introduced a radical policy reforms. Actually, two measures we have undertaken under the this policy reforms in 1991. One is the devaluation of the rupees and making rupees partially convertible, and actually we have reduced the value of the rupees in comparison to the foreign currency, so that's more export can be there. And but that time in 1991, basically no changes in trade restriction on agricultural products were suggested. Actually, the restriction on agricultural products were gradually lifted one by one, and basically India signed a Uruguay Round agreement on 15th April 1994, and basically this was the first time there was a multilateral agreement on in the trade related issues, and the aim was to eliminate the physical control over the import export activity by the bound tariff rates, and then the agreement on agriculture came into effect from the January 1st, 1995, and basically this marks the beginning of the new era of the agricultural trade policy. And basically the Government of India announced a new 5-year export import policy which was effective from the April 1, 1992, and this 5-year policy is termed as the import export policy or EXIM policy, and the 5-year period was 1992 to 97, and this specially gave a push to liberalization of the import and intended to give significant boost to the export, and the international trade was made free subject to a negative list of the export and imports. And then import-export policy of 2002-2002, there was a removal of all quantitative restriction and decentralization of the exports. So there was a the instruction from the government. It was a completely decentralized process, and to promote the export from the country, a scheme of special economic zone were started, and this scheme were strengthened. And then for agriculture sector, setting up the agri export zone were started by removing the export restriction on the agro and agro-based industries or agro-based product. And to promote the export from the agriculture sector, the transport subsidy were started. Then the procedures were simplified to reduce the transaction cost, and then to have the market access in the foreign market, setting of the business center in Indian missions abroad were started. So actually to have to give some promotional activity in the foreign countries where we have the Indian embassies, we have set up a business centers. And then de-reservation from small scale industry provision for 50 items including agriculture implements were done. And then recent EXIM policy, that is basically 2015 to 2020, and basically it provide a stable and sustainable policy environment. That is the objective of that policy. And basically it link rules, procedures and incentives for external trade with other incentives such as the Make in India, Digital India and Skill India. So basically a proper link can be provided in the rules procedure related to external trade by considering the Make in India program, the Digital India program and Skill India program. And basically this EXIM policy of 2015-20, it promotes the diversification of India's export basket. More items should be included in the export basket. That was one of the objectives. And basically it create an architecture for India's global trade agreement, global trade engagement by increasing the demand for India's product and contributing to the Make in India initiative. And basically this policy highlighted about the regular appraisal in order to rationalize import and reduce the trade imbalance. And then this policy talk about in particularly specific to the agriculture products, we should maintain a long-term, stable and consistent and by default open export policy. And basically to deal with the sanitary, financial and technical barrier related to trade issues. There are SPSS issues and TBT issues. We need to have effective handling of these issues by upgrading the quality to avoid the disruption in trade, then challenging unfair practices of trading partners. Sometimes there was unfair practices and there was rejection of the consignment by giving or by citing the SPSS or TBT issues. So they should challenge that some practices. And then creating physical infrastructure and institution capacity were highlighted in this 2015-20 EXIM policy. And for agriculture sector, basically there should be focus on post-harvest facility that focus on the processed and value-added export and niche product export from the country. And for that purpose, we need to provide the post-harvest facilities such as cold chain facilities, transport logistics, silos with temperature control mechanism, the pack houses, the integrated post-harvest facilities and centers we need to provide in the country. And for organic export is another focus of the 2015-20 EXIM policy in the agriculture sector. And actually for that we need to provide appropriate policy intervention. And basically we need to have the creditable an up-to-date organic export certification and accreditation program in the country, so that should be no issues about the quality or the certification of the organic product. And then when we talk about the the international trade or trade policy, there are issues or policies related to intellectual property rights, and we will be focusing now on the various issues related to IPR. And basically we can define the IPR as an intangible properties based on the creation of the human brain. So by using this human brains, when we create some distinctive product or property, that is called basically intellectual property. And actually the patent, copyrights, trademarks or similar form of legal protection is used to drive the right to intellectual property. So actually through the patent or copyright or some trademarks, and actually that provide us to protect our right on the intellectual property created by brain, human brain. And basically it enables the owners to exclude others from exploiting the intervention or inventions which are created by a company or a person or a scientist. And India has a rich heritage of ideas and techniques, the products, process and biodiversity which have the economic and commercial potential. So we need to protect this heritage of ideas or the resources. And actually India, basically Indian agriculture used due to the improved biological materials and better agriculture production techniques. So all these ideas or intellectual properties have created an environment which has helped in the Indian agriculture system. And basically the protection of to the techniques and materials by patenting or sui generis system is most essential, and most countries basically protect their intellectual properties and even in the other countries. And for that purpose basically trade related intellectual property rights, TRIPS, that is the part of WTO agreements, and the grant of intellectual property rights basically ensure that the protection to the authors, designers or inventor against imitation and copying. So no other can use that or can copy other. That basically rights is provided through the intellectual property rights, and basically it encourages the innovations and inventive techniques which promote technical, industrial and economic development in the countries or by that companies or by that individual. And basically the IPR is basically a monopolistic right granted by the government to inventor for a fixed period, so that that persons or that company exclude other persons from imitating, manufacturing and using or selling a patented product or utilizing a patented method or process to improve upon. And it can be assigned or transferred by succession. So it can be given by to other person if there is some agreement, or if there is some transaction is there. And plant animal variety protection, breeder rights are some of the important aspect when we talk about the agriculture sectors. And the protection of microbiological inventions are also important in agriculture sector. Then biodiversity protection is also important in agriculture sectors. And all these areas include some human brain activities, some development by the human brains, and that have the commercial aspect and the economic aspect. So that's why they need to be protected. And basically for that purpose, in case of the plant animal variety protection or breeder right, for that purpose actually India enacted a legislation that is called as the protection of plant varieties and farmers right in 2001. And basically for the grant of plant, the plant variety protection, a variety has to be a specific, it should be a new and distinct from the other existing known varieties, and it should be uniform and homogeneous in their the characteristics, their phenomenal, phenomena or genetic compositions, and also it should be stable in terms of identifying traits, and that's why the increasing to increase the healthy competition, it help in increasing the healthy competition among the breeders and plant breeding institution to develop more and more new plant varieties which have some distinct characteristics. And actually that is very important, and the development of varieties with high yield potential, greater stability, better disease and pest resistance, and good quality attributes. So all these characters are being incorporated in the developing the new plant varieties. And then there are different forms of this IPR. Basically, the one is the patent is there. Then we have the copyright and related rights, the another aspect. So basically, copyrights law basically protects the creativity, and it basically protects the owner of the rights in literary works, the scientific work, on artistic works, and basically it works against those who copy or take or use the form in which the original works were expressed by the author. And the copyright holder has exclusive right to authorize other to use the protected work, for example reproduction or performing or recording or broadcasting or translation. So basically copyright holder has the exclusive rights, and it can authorize other if there is some transaction or some agreement is there. Then trademark is another the way of intellectual property right protection, and basically a trademark is an identification symbol. It is used in the course of trade to enable the buyer to distinguish one trader's goods from the similar goods of the other trader, and the trademark used in connection with the service, that is called as a service marks, and these are used by the hotel, restaurants, airlines, tourist agencies or car rental agencies, laundries or cleaners. So there are different types of services are there. So or the business activities are there. So where we use the trademarks or service marks. Then the another types of intellectual property right are the industrial designs or layout design of the integrated circuit, and basically the design is basically the features of the shape, configurations and the pattern of ornamental on the articles. Basically they are judged by the solely by the eyes, and basically it is applied on the article, not the article itself. So basically protection is provided to the design on a article, not the article itself, and basically it is conceived in the author's intellectual and the, for example, textile design. And to qualify for the registration of a design, it must be a new or original design and must have not been published in India prior to the date of the registration. Then another intellectual property right protection mechanism is the protection of undisclosed information and traditional wisdom. Actually the know-how or knowledge at grassroots level has has been handed down for the generations orally and has barely been documented. A lot of knowledge or skills are there in the societies, and that has been handed over to the the new generations without any some written document is there, and like medicinal herbs or various traditional practices and the customs, culture, secret idea on biofungicides and the food, etc. And it may lead to the new innovations and hence need to be protected. So this is another form of the intellectual. And then the another form of the intellectual property right is the geographical indications, and basically this geographic indications refer to the goods originating in the territory of the member, and basically it has distinct quality or characteristics to that regions, and like basmati rice and the herbal medicine plants in India, and the particular basmati rice which are grown in a particular area has some distinct characteristics, the districts, the flavors and the distinct text, which is not available in other areas. So GI is provided and geographical indication is provided to the rice of that particular area. So through this agreement, basically it bound member to Article 10 of the Paris Convention of 1967 and offer property right to a specific area over the products. So basically it is utilized for providing protection to the fermented medicinal preparation given the Ayurvedic text, or there are many other products like the Darjeeling tea, Alfonso and Desiree mango or Shahi lychee. So there are a number of examples of the geographical indications. Then trade secret is also another intellectual property right protection way, and basically employees, especially in the field of bioinformatics, they would be a priority to a lot of information during the time of providing services, and the service providers should be made to sign a statutory or contractual instruments or a mix of both. And for entrepreneurs, basically the IPR is a question of the farthest finger first, and the another way of the intellectual property right protection is the material transfer agreement, and basically there is a trade secret approach based on the inventor's ability to keep the information secret, and to assist in this process, law provide the enforcement of the trade secret and also offer remedies against improper acquisition of the trade secret. And then the sanitary and financial sanitary measure is another important issues which are emerging in the international exchange of agriculture and other related commodities. And basically, this our agriculture commodity or have the international agriculture commodity, when have the international trade, they have significant risk of spread of pathogens and disease among animals, plants and human beings, and also risk of spread of insect and weeds when the commodities goes from one part of the country to the other nation. And to control and check the transmission of such risks, the preventive measures were framed under the WTO under the preview of the sanitary and phytosanitary measures, SPCS measures. And the objective of this SPCS measure is to protect animals or plant life or health from risk arising from the entry, establishment and spread of pest, disease and disease carrying organism or disease causing organism, and protect human and animal life or health from risk arising from the additives and contaminants and toxin or disease causing organism in food, beverage or food stuff, and then protect human life or health from the risk arising from disease carried by animals, plant and product. And basically another objective of SPCS measure to prevent or limit other damage from the entry, establishment or spread of the pest. So the chapters were included in the final act of WTO on the SPCS measures, and a number of principles were also identified, and the adoption of principles of equivalence rather than sameness, then assessment of risk and determination of appropriate level of species protection, and the adoption of regional conditions including pest and disease free area and area of low pest and disease prevalence. And we need to conduct, the importing country need to provide the access for the inspection, testing and the relevant procedures, and transparency through publication of regulations, notification of alternative procedures, and also we need to develop a system for hazard analysis, critical point HACCP system we need to develop to protect against the species issues. And now we can sum up the session that various measures have been adopted to enhance the international trade and intellectual property rights, protect against the imitations and copying of the new ideas, design, process, products and devices and apparatus. Basically, it encourages the innovations and inventive activities which promote technical and industrial and economic development, and basically it leads to increased trade among the nations through the IPR, and the international exchange of agriculture and related commodity contribute to the risk of spread of pathogens and disease. That is why to control all this risk or transmission of such risk, we need to have the some preventive mechanism, and for that purpose specious measures have been framed time to time, and a number of actions or policy actions was undertaken to promote the international trade in terms of providing the export subsidies, or removing the trade barriers by introducing the tariff systems to promote the international trade. With this, I thank you.